peace to others out there and y'all sisters as well. Shalom, Akyam, and Akwav. I just wanted to cover this recent news about Shannon Sharpe being outraged because the coach of the Cowboys decided to galvanize his team by smashing watermelons based off of the inspiration of Gallagher, the 1980s comedian. And this is how you know that we live in a world full of people with delusions and people who are disingenuous in their stance for agenda purposes. So you see Shannon Sharpe, who wants to use this racial climate in regards to the propaganda of the racial climate, and he wants to basically be a buffer between the so-called black community and the liberal people that control this society. And that's what he is. He's Boule. That's what a Boule member is. A Boule member is basically an intermediary black figure who is meant to basically keep the so-called black community at bay, or keep them in a certain understanding of the narrative-based propaganda that come from the white liberal media in regards to, so-called black man just come from slavery and that's it. So-called black man should align himself with the narrative of, the watermelon and Sambo and civil rights movement and Jim Crow and all this narrative-based history that's not really substantive when it comes to the vastness of our history. So you got this man who says, oh, it's racist. Now, we know that he's delusional and he's living in a world where he has to really push that shit and go to extreme, because he's using it as a way to show people, hey, I'm more black than you because I think that everything is race. I think that everything is based upon race and I'm victimizing myself. He literally thinks that this is a part of being black. Always, looking at things as racism, or always victimizing yourself, not holding yourself accountable, not understanding history. And that goes with being so-called black in America. But when you disalign yourself from that, when you disavow all that and you understand the truth, then you're not a so-called black man. You are a person of the Lord. You come back to the true understanding of the Heavenly Father and truth and sincerity, and you understand that this world is based off of falsehood, corporate designation, so on and so forth. Black is not a color. Black is not a race. Black is not a language. So for you to associate a fucking watermelon with something that's based off of a falsehood when it comes to the construct, then you know that you live in a world full of delusion. You know that you've been born into the matrix. And that's what Shannon Sharpe is doing. But Shannon Sharpe is doing this disingenuously. He understands that it's not that big of a deal that the man was smashing fucking watermelons. It's like, are you serious? When did we ever say that a watermelon was symbolism for a black person? We just use it as a stereotype because black people love to eat watermelons and chicken. What's the issue? It just goes to show you that these people, they go so hard to try to make black people think that everything is an issue. They want to be offended by every little fucking thing. You offended by a fucking man smashing a fruit? Are you serious? This is why I say these things that I say about this world, man. It's a wacko world we live in. It really is, bro. It's a wacko fucking world. It's crazy.
Shannon Sharpe, the Hall of Fame NFL tight end, won Super Bowls with the Broncos and the Ravens, and has been working in television since the end of his career, and now works at where I used to work. We were once co-workers together at Fox Sports 1. He's now there. He does a show with Skip Bayless. And Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy, in an attempt to fire up his team before playing the Minnesota Vikings, used the comedian Gallagher. And some of you may be too young to remember the comedian Gallagher, but he had a visual form of comedy where he would smash things with a sledgehammer, and he was known for smashing watermelons.
And that's all the inspiration was. And excuse me for cutting off the brother Jason Whitlock. That's all the inspiration was. The guy Mike McCarthy, the coach of the Cowboys, he would smash other things besides the watermelon. That's how you know that these people, they just look for anything to be offended by. You looking for a person smashing a watermelon to be offended by it? Really, bro? And people really put this person on a pedestal. They call him Unk and all this dumb shit. O'Shea, like this dude is a clown. You idolize another man, that being LeBron James. He is a fucking clown. People like him need to die. For real. Because it's people like that that's holding us back in this world. Those people ain't gonna make it anyway. And I don't give a fuck who don't like that, man. When you understand the realness of this world, when it comes to the scriptures, people like that need to go. For real. You a cancer, man. You need to go. That's why you split up with your white wife. Because you understood that it would make it seem as if you a fucking hypocrite. Because you talking all this blackity black shit, but you with a fucking white woman, you clown. These people are clowns, man. These celebrities. You starting to see it more and more that these motherfuckers should not be someone you should put as a paragon. These people are clowns. And I only respect and appreciate the figures like a Jason Whitlock and other people, even the white people like Clay Travis, even though, I understand that there's other things that he believes in that I don't believe in. And of course, he's a white man, so there's but so much. But at the end of the day, at least the man has a sound mind. At least he understands truth, as opposed to the fucking liberal bullshit that the media constantly disseminate to the masses. Constantly. Every day is deception. Every single day. Every day. It's annoying. That's why I listen to like Outkick and all that stuff, because it's refreshing to hear sound-minded like views and discussions and so on and so forth, like a manly discussion. Now, don't get me wrong. You have certain other things that's on there that's based in stuff that I don't believe. Like when it comes to Jason Whitlock's belief in Christianity and Clay Travis's belief that America is the greatest country and all that nonsense. But at the end of the day, these people stand on truth to a degree. More than the fucking liberal, nonsensical media like CNN and ESPN and all that bullshit, man.
I went back just to check my memory yesterday and watch some of this online, and big crowds laughing hysterically, and I would look and go, well, that's not that funny. Why did we laugh at that back then? But it was very popular. And Mike McCarthy is around the same age as me. And I've known Mike McCarthy since the early 1990s when he became an assistant coach with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I used to ridicule Mike McCarthy. He was a former Baker University tight end. He became the quarterbacks coach of the Chiefs when Joe Montana was there and Steve Bono. He was the offensive coordinator. Was a guy named Paul Hackett. I got a long history with Mike McCarthy. He won a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. I've known Mike McCarthy for a long time. He smashed some watermelons, and his team enjoyed it. The Dallas Cowboys, Saturday night before the game, he used this sledgehammer to drive home the point about what we're going to do to the Vikings. And the last one was a watermelon, and it represented Dalvin Cook, the running back for the Vikings, who's one of the best players in football, and a defensive lineman, a black defensive lineman for the Cowboys.
So it's basically Mike McCarthy saying we're going to smash Dalvin Cook, quote unquote best player on the Vikings. We're going to smash the running back for the Vikings. We're going to smash him. That's basically what he was doing, just to pump up his team. You see that in sports. That's how you know that Shannon Sharpe was just being a pawn. He's used. He's controlled. And Skip Bayless was just aiding him in it. Not telling him that he's a fool for even coming to that sort of conclusion. That's how you know that it's agenda based. They want motherfuckers to be so hypersensitive to every little fucking thing. We live in a world that's based in the worship of female thoughts. That's why they worship the mother goddess. They want us to embrace female thoughts. And even certain females don't even take it. They take it there with being offended by everything. But they want us to embrace that borderline female thought of being so caught up in shit that don't really fucking matter. Like who cares about a person smashing a watermelon? Because of the stereotype that's adjacent to so-called black people about us, about how we love watermelons and shit like that. And then it was used as a slur, but who cares? That's how you know that, like people like that, they put their spirit in this shit, man. Who cares? Even a person that's not putting their spirit in this shit, they'll probably look at this shit like, really, bro? Like you really reaching now. Like this is outrageous, bro. And it goes to show you the world we live in. Everything that you see about these things shows you the world we in. You can't just look at that and separate that from the fact that this is the world we live in. Nonsensical shit, man. It's a bunch of nonsense every day, every single day. And it's going to get even worse, which tells you why the Bible confirms itself.
Team enjoyed it. The Dallas Cowboys, Saturday night before the game, he used this sledgehammer to drive home the point. He smashed some watermelons, and his team enjoyed it. the Dallas Cowboys Saturday night before the game. He used this sledgehammer to drive home the point about what we're going to do to the Vikings. And the last one was a watermelon, and it represented Dalvin Cook, the running back for the Vikings, who's one of the best players in football. And a defensive lineman, a black defensive lineman from the Cowboys, got up like, "No, I'm gonna smash that one, coach," and he smashed it. The Cowboys enjoyed it. They go out and basically play their best game of the season the next day against the Vikings and win, and they have a little hope. But here's how Shannon Sharpe, and here's how he reacted to I think it was the NFL Network who reported what Mike McCarthy did the day before the team to inspire his team. I'm not sure what Shannon Sharpe is thinking. Anytime a watermelon is in the presence of white people and black people, it's offensive.
Oh, man.
Let's don't go to the grocery store together. There may be a watermelon and there may be black and white people in the grocery store at the same time. Who lives this way? Constantly looking for something to be offended by. The Dallas Cowboys, like most of the NFL, 70% probably black players on that roster. DeMarcus Lawrence, a defensive lineman, gets up, smashes a watermelon too. It didn't mean a damn thing to them because they're not thinking of how can I be controversial on TV and how can I accuse a white person of being racist.
And it's all about looking for the acceptance of the white man. Shannon Sharpe, he's so invested in looking at the white man for acceptance and validation. You can tell. That's why he goes so hard with the race shit. And some of the shit he'd say he don't know. He don't know and most of the shit he say, he don't know what the fuck he talking about. Because his understanding is based off of the narrative about black people. It's not based off of the true understanding of so-called black people. That's why he associate the shit with the watermelon, because that's narrative shit. Who cares about that? Like, for real, bro? Who cares? Like, come on, bro. Like, that shit is just like, come on, bro. That shit is nothing. That shit is like a fucking, like water that's splashing out of a fucking bucket. Who cares about that? Just like I tell you in the scriptures, it's like water that come out of a bucket when you're trying to mop some water, you pour some water in the bucket and a little bit come out. Like, for real, bro, you really gonna go that far with this shit? That's how you know that it's agenda-based and he's being disingenuous. Come on, man.
That's not a common thought for most people. They don't spend their day, although they're trying to program us to spend the entire day looking for how we're offended. And I'm just sorry. God created the watermelon, not white people. And I know there are a lot of black people, and Shannon Sharpe may be one of them, who think white people, particularly white liberals, are God. But they're not. Let me break them.
And you could tell that the brother watches Chronicles of Judah 144. And, you know, Chronicles of Judah 144 is probably one of the best YouTubers. And the thing about him is, like, he brings the unadulterated truth on so many different levels. And you could tell that the brother Jason Whitlock watches his channel. Because he even said it in response to somebody asking him on Twitter that if he watches COJ, and he said yes. And based off of the understanding of COJ and what he stands on is morality and truth and the understanding of the scriptures and the so-called black man being, you know, God's chosen and understanding what we need to do on this earth based off of prophecy, history, so on and so forth, as well as other things that's based in, you know, what's good for the so-called black man and the so-called black community. And Jason Whitlock, he sees that. And he takes on that based off of when he's speaking, you know, with his podcasts or interviews and so on and so forth. He can't take it on too much because, you know, he understands that, you know, as far as him being in alignment with certain companies and all that, it's certain things that he's prohibited to say, even though, you know, he has podcasts like Fearless and so on and so forth. He can't say certain things about the Jews, the Caucasian Jews. So, you know, he's limited. But at the end of the day, you could tell the brother watches the righteous channels. He's into the righteousness in regards to whether it be on YouTube or just understanding certain things that's based in morale. You feel what I'm saying? But I just bring in the Chronicles of Judah angle because, you know, he's like a source that's based in like information that a lot of people are not really privy to, and I was inspired by him based off of me and this channel, and I already did a video about that. But yeah, man, like Jason Whitlock, he's outraged and he's irate because it's getting to a point where now you understand that this shit is agenda driven. This is why he said that they programming us with this shit, because he understands that this dude is doing this based off of the fact that he has to do that, and Skip Bayless has to aid him in doing that. You feel what I'm saying? It's not on his own volition that he want to come to the conclusion that Mike McCarthy smashing watermelons is racist. It's just fucking retarded. Racism is just power. That's all racism is. White people are in power. Therefore, they use progeny preservation. If you partial to your own, wouldn't you do the same thing? That's why we have to understand certain things based off of power, a ruling class mentality. We think like servants. We don't think like rulers. We think like servants, and that's the problem. That's why we look at shit like, oh, racism is that. No, all racism is a certain race preserving their race over other races. It's nothing wrong with that. Now, of course, white people do it in heinous ways, but still, let's alleviate the emotional aspect and understand that these people are in power. That's what it is. Power. Motherfuckers don't understand power because we fucking servants and workers. We have to develop a ruling class mentality.
News to you. A watermelon is just a piece of fruit, a healthy piece of fruit, by the way. It's from the earth. There's nothing demonic about it. And yes, I'm aware that there was a time when it was used as a slur for black people. But again, as I told you earlier in the show, other people don't control my emotions. And so the sight of a watermelon and Mike McCarthy smashing it, I'm just sorry.
And you could tell that it's the liberals' job. Excuse me for keep cutting it off, but you could tell that it's the liberals' job to continue to make sure that the so-called black community sees certain things as far as everything being racist. That's why you had this segment on ESPN where they was doing it, and they was covering it, and what's his name? Jason Williams, I believe, Jay Williams. He was in disagreement with it too. He basically had the same stance as Shannon and the other black guy. I forget his name, but they got this little morning show where they do this little podcast. It's Jay Williams and some other two guys, and the host of the show, was just breaking it down. And you could tell that the host of the show knew that they would disagree with it. You feel what I'm saying? That's why he was giving every detail as far as like why the coach was inspired by it and so on and so forth, so they could understand that it didn't come from a place of racism. But the so-called black man is so gullible and so fucking lost that he really believes that shit. He really took that on. Or more so, just the understanding that it's their job to act as if it's a racist thing because they boule. You feel what I'm saying? So they got to keep the so-called black masses in a certain state of thinking that everything is about racism, or thinking or basing their minds off of what the TV tells them when it comes to these boule figures like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe and LeBron James and so on and so forth.
It's not some painful reminder of racism. It's a painful reminder when we all used to laugh at Gallagher. That's all it is. I can't. I help me out here, Stu. I don't want to drag you into trouble, but
No.
I just don't get it.
Well, I have a moral opposition of saying something positive about the Dallas Cowboys, so I won't go down that road. But it does seem like, you hit on this, and I think it's an important thing to revisit. It seems like Shannon Sharpe is trying to convince the Dallas Cowboy players that they should feel racism when they didn't feel it. When they saw their coach, who they like, doing something to motivate them, he says, no, you're wrong to have that connection with your coach, and instead you should see him doing the most evil thing any of us can picture, being this vicious racist in front of his players. When you have to convince someone that racism exists and they are the victim of it, well, maybe it doesn't exist. Maybe you're just coming up with something
What does a racist mean? We have to really understand that. Ist, I-S-T, racist, bicyclist, guitarist, It means you're for something. You're for your people. Excuse me. In a roundabout way, the Most High is a racist because he preserveth his people. We have to get out of this understanding when it comes to the propaganda about certain things, about certain ideologies, about certain conventions. Race. The term race goes back to the Latin word raza, which means seed line of a man. When you are a racist, that means you're for your race. You're partial to your people. The negative connotation has been put on it because of what white people have done. But even with what they have done in regards to the heinous acts, they're still in power. They're still going to put their people first. Why are we so caught up in integration? Why? Because that's the work of the devil. Deception. To make you believe that integration is better than segregation. Because when you segregate, you grow as a people. You're not worried about other races. We the only race of people that's worried about the validation of other races. Other races don't care about validation from other races. We the only ones. That's how you know that it's a spiritual thing with us, man. But I just wanted to end it there, man. God bless y'all. Peace.